African Americans in the first half of the 20th century had to contemplate the development of their self definition, independent of what the white population thought. They encountered extraordinary challenges in their claims for economic, social, and political inclusion. Photography, illustrations, and literature of the time often shared the common agenda of depicting the inability of African Americans to thrive under their own direction. However, Robert H. McNeill, a photographer for the Federal Writers Project, captured the lives of African Americans through a different perspective. McNeill's photographs in the Negro in Virginia series illustrated the statistical and narrative components of the publication while documenting the everyday lives of African Americans in a way that dignified and progressed their experience. Robert McNeill, whose parents were a physician and educator, was born in 1917 in Washington, D.C. At the time of his birth, D.C. was plagued with extraordinary discrimination and racial divides exemplary of the rest of the nation. A student of Howard University and the New York Institute of Photography, McNeill worked as a freelancer until he was eventually commissioned through various organizations, such as the WPA's Federal Writers Project, the United Negroes College Fund, and the federal government. Regardless of the subject or the commissioner, McNeill tended to focus on the dignified interpretations of those he photographed. Robert McNeill was commissioned to contribute photographs that aided the narrative of the Negro of Virginia book, which was written by the Virginia Writers Project. This project was a result of the Workers' Progress Administration, an organization created by Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal. In the wake of the Great Depression, Roosevelt introduced a New Deal in order to employ over 3 million Americans with the hopes of revamping the United States economy and optimism. One of the government projects created by the New Deal was the Federal Writers Project, which was tasked with creating opportunities and jobs for unemployed writers on a statewide level. The book The Negro in Virginia came to fruition from one of the localized departments called the Virginia Writers Project. They sought to research and archive African American history in Virginia through the perspectives and testimonials of former slaves and black Virginians. The book details the perspectives and responses of African Americans throughout the development of American history, through perilous times like Reconstruction, the Revolution, and the Civil War. In post-war times, the disparities of Negro neighborhoods with high rental rates and condemnable conditions are exposed. The differences in wages, disease, and fatality rates, as well as criminal acts between the races, is explained in great detail. However, the book also commemorates the accolades and accomplishments of those within the communities of Virginia, despite the oppression at hand. There is a strong focus on portraying the roles that African Americans played in labor, economics, and religion as well. Robert McNeill was tasked with traveling around Virginia and collecting photographs representative of the everyday African American experience in order to aid the narrative of the Negro of Virginia book. McNeill captures the subjects of working class black Virginians in rural, suburban, and work environments. The images created for this series center around African Americans engaging in labor, leisure, and daily living, which coincide with the chapters of the publication. McNeill's photograph of a young messenger boy is integrated into a chapter about the developmental conflicts faced by freed African Americans in order to demonstrate the advancement of black employment. The boy symbolizes the laborious progress that black Virginians were able to achieve and pass on to their prosperity and communities. Another chapter discusses the evolution of the roles played by black Virginians in labor and the disparities they faced compared to their white contemporaries. It is accompanied by McNeill's photographs of farmers, planters, and workers. These workers display pride in their craft and labor, unaffected by racial tensions surrounding them. Each of his photographs in this collection harp on the ability of African Americans to not only survive but thrive in times of adversity. The sense of pride and dignity McNeill instills in his photography is evident in his photograph, A New Car in Richmond. This photograph illustrates a group of young African American men surrounding and admiring their friend's brand new black coupe. The group seems to be completely unaffected by racial and political strife surrounding them, much like James Van Der Zee's couple in raccoon coats. He was not aiming to create race or class role players, but instead individuals thriving at a time of adversity. McNeill's photographs in the Negro in Virginia series captivate the experiences of black Virginians in a way that honors both their trials and tribulations as well as their achievements. This is done in conjunction with the perspectives of hundreds of former slaves and African Americans over the 3 centuries of America's evolution in order to ensure their perspectives and progress are not lost in the history books. McNeill instills a sense of dignity and pride in his subjects, much like the way the Negro in Virginia dignifies the lives and experiences of the oppressed black Virginians. in the sense that those individuals play into the whole formation of African American history and identity. While the photographs of Robert McNeill do display the disparities of economic and social oppression faced by black Virginians, they are a supplement emphasizing African Americans' innate ability to adapt, overcome, and thrive.